Hello everybody and welcome back to another video from the Theory of Racelessness. Before the clip, we have some very exciting news. Dr. Sheena Mason, Dr. Carlos Hoyt, and Greg Thomas present Resolving the Racism Dilemma, a full-day conference coming up this September 24th, 2022. Register using the link in the description box down below to experience these leading voices as they explore and discuss how to correct the misguided notions of race. Now, enjoy the video.
I had several conversations with my advisor about how, although I was applying the theory of racelessness in the framework to those types of characters in the one chapter, I saw that the idea of undoing race to undo racism, as happening within other texts and within the real world as it pertains to people who are racialized as obviously fill in the blank. So for me, it wasn't their mulatto-ness, right? Their mixedness that was inspiring the reading that I was gleaning from the text. It was the presence of race in, by extension, then the presence of racism in the first place that was inspiring the reading. So if you have other texts within the body of African American literature or Caribbean literature or American literature more broadly, if race is present, if race is being signified in some ways, then that to me is fodder for grappling with and understanding and really mining for meaning this possibility of, is what's being depicted here the necessity to undo race to undo racism. And feedback that I get often enough to take note of it. And I just spoke with a young lady that recently who's in Canada, Violette. She was saying that people tell her, well, it's because you're mixed that you're able, that you think about race in this untraditional way or whatever. And it's often done as a way to devalue and diminish what a person is saying, right? But there are people like my wife who looks obviously Black, who agrees wholeheartedly with theory of racelessness and with your ideas in terms of what race is, what it isn't, and what should be done with it. And historically, there are countless people who are obviously Black who have thought of race and conceived of race in these ways. So I guess one question I have for you is a sort of question about it's a question about how you see the idea of one's mixedness sort of interfering with people grappling with your ideas in a more meaningful way, perhaps, or if you think that because with your own book you kind of stepped outside of this idea of mixedness and biracial, just what are the conclusions that you end up drawing for people who are racialized in more obvious ways as it pertains to seeing oneself as a race transcender?
Yeah, it's a great and important question. I sometimes offer that one of the fundamental sort of challenges or problems with the way we talk about race and racial identity and racism is that we're failing to get to the root of the weed, is what I say as my metaphor. Taking the tragic mulatto as an example, where the tragedy, as it is constructed, of having a mulatto identity is like the weed that we see on the first surface of the lawn, and we keep plucking at it and plucking at it, but we're not getting down to the root of the problem, because the real tragedy is the construct of race, right? There's no mulatto-ness, there's no struggle between, am I going to be Black, am I going to be white, if there's no Black and white, if there's no racial substrate that keeps sort of producing and propagating, these myths that then people have to reckon with. I think that you are very generous, when you speak about, this perspective as a philosophy. I tend to think of, when I left my undergraduate degree experience, I had a BA in psychology, but I'd studied more philosophy than psychology because I just fell in love with it. But I didn't have the good sense of like double major because I'm just not smart in that way. And I ended up at UChicago studying philosophy for a year. And although it's still in my bones, I realized that that sort of movement towards an ivory tower sort of existence was a little bit in conflict with my desire to serve because I had started to work with underprivileged folks at that time. So with the good influence of a dear friend who became my wife, I left UChicago, came back home, studied social work, and the rest is history. But in terms of philosophy, I feel as if philosophy often connotes a sense of exchange of ideas, perspectives, arguments. Let's listen to each other, see where we settle. I see the business and the importance of the discussion about race and all things related, not so much as a philosophical enterprise, but as an empirical one. And to your viewers, I apologize if this sounds dogmatic, but I actually think there's a right and wrong here. There's no such thing as race. We know it. We are sort of operating in, a castle that's sort of floating in the air. And we do that with lots of social constructs. There's no such thing as nation. There's no such thing as money. Like there are lots of social constructs that we're happy to live and die for. I get that. So one could say, why can't race be one of those? And my typical answer is, well, it can be. But if we have a choice, if it's not like that rock that if I hit it hard enough, I'm going to hurt myself every time. If I can actually choose whether or not to abide by this particular construct, why would I choose to abide by it? So, and you also mentioned eliminativism, and you referenced that I sometimes use this term correctivism. There's a lovely book.
We hope you enjoyed that highlight. To watch the full version, use the link in the description box down below. Before we go, here's another reminder for Resolving the Racism Dilemma with Dr. Sheena Mason, Dr. Carlos Hoyt, and Greg Thomas. We highly encourage you check out the great things being offered at this conference, September 24th. All of the conference information is linked down below. We hope to see you there.